Welcome to Crimson Guitars and welcome to the 8th video in our Sharpening Masterclass series. This is a long-running, ongoing look at every single possible method of sharpening, every single possible, to a certain extent, possible, everything I can find that is sharpenable, we're going to have a go at it. And today is an interesting one. We build guitars at Crimson Guitars, and as such, I use teeny tiny little baby spokeshaves and violin makers' thumb planes and purfling guides, and I forgot what that was called for a second. All of these things have blades, and all of these things have got to be sharpened at some point, and they are fiddly and annoying and difficult, and there are several tricks. There are several tricks that we can use to get a proper edge on them. And it does not involve holding a tiny little blade in between your thumb and forefinger and trying to avoid cutting yourself open, either on the blade or on your sharpening stone. And this is going to be one of those things where you do use a sharpening stone. Watch the other videos. There are other methods. There are machines. There are jigs. There are various myriad different options. For this tutorial though, you need sharpening stones, be it oil stones, Shapton glass stones, which are fantastic and wonderful, or standard water stones, king stones, etc. You need something of that ilk, shall we say. The other option is potentially to use the Scary Sharp system as well, if that's all you have access to. I am going to be revisiting that in another video again. My first one on the subject was, well, apparently I can do better. And apparently there are better quality materials to use for the Scary Sharp system, so that should be an option. Anyway, let's move on to trying to sharpen some really tiny blades. So the problem becomes that one's not too bad. How does one hold reliably a tiny little blade? That's too short, really. You could fiddle and desperately try, but to get to that bevel, it's practically impossible. But when you get onto tiny little babies like this, which I don't have the right screwdriver for, it does become even more problematic. Now this one has two tiny little blades, and again we could probably quite easily flatten the back, but to get an accurate bevel on here, it's just not practical. So we need to find a way to hold our blades, and well, there are many options, and I can't get this one out. We'll revisit that. Okay, the first option is jewelry supply people, or people who supply jewelers, sell these little tools, and it's work holding for holding rings, for holding links in chains that you're making and stuff like that. And essentially what you can do is turn this into an extra finger, which you can do without cutting yourself. And suddenly we have something that is more akin to a chisel, and you have access to it, and you can actually just go. Now that is the ideal, and for most tools this is perfectly fine. I would suggest maybe putting some leather on the inside jaws so you don't scratch up your tools. You can make a similar tool. This is something I've had for ages, and it's literally put your blade in the slot, tighten up the Allen key, and you're away. Where are my Allen keys? Preparation, preparation, preparation. So here we go. And this will work for all sorts as well. And it basically, this particular one I've shaped to fit my hand, and you can actually use this as a tool. And it works really well. The final option is something a little bit more, shall we say, 10,000 years ago. Low tech, a bit of wood. Now, well, let's actually get a bit more high tech than that. But we've got a really, really tiny, tiny little blade here, but it does need a handle. So we take our little bit of wood, and cut a slot in it. And essentially, that can now be gripped. If it's narrow enough, and this is where it really becomes useful. Sometimes soft woods are actually pretty awesome, aren't they? Okay, so we now have a custom handle for this one particular little blade. And the thing is, with the blade sitting in, all it really takes is hand pressure to hold it so that it can't move. So I could, just with my finger putting pressure down, close that gap, and you'll be okay. Now if I'd put the slot closer to that edge, there'd be a bit more support on the back, etc. And this is now a 5-second tool that takes the place of this and is actually much less fiddly. You saw me fiddling around to get that in nice and square and good to go. If you want something a little bit less unstable, well, then we can start playing with fire. So make sure you've got a little bit of plastic or something to protect yourself with. Get a lighter and get some wax. And this, surprisingly, is actually quite a useful and good way of holding things down. Engravers will use wax to hold what they're engraving down to a table so that they can work on it. And the same goes for, I use this when I'm doing inlay quite a lot of the time. And essentially that, once it's completely dried, will be one with the tool, but not permanently, and it's easy to clean up. So, well, now that that's in there, it's just a case of getting out the water stones, and or oil stones or diamond stones, and having a go. So, now let's see. Start off with some 500 grit, and these are the Shapton Stones that are particularly awesome. The reason I love the Shapton Stones is it's a ceramic stone and lasts long, doesn't need flattening as much. Now, finding the bevel is a little bit more difficult because I've got this massive cumbersome bit of metal in between me and the blade. And as you can see, I'm keeping as much contact with the tool as I can. And the other issue with doing it like this is that I have less space to flatten on the back. At this point in the series, I am expecting you to have watched all of the other ones, I suppose, and to know that what you have to do in order to get a sharp tool is polish both faces, and the intersection between the flat and the beveled face is what makes a sharp tool. And the higher the polish and the more perfect that intersection, the sharper the tool. Now I'm keeping my hand as stable as possible. I'm moving my arms at the shoulders, at the elbows. I'm actually moving my whole arm and trying to keep it as stable as possible so that I keep that bevel. And it's coming together. Turning over a little burr on that blade. Now, pulling back, it's slower because I've got less passes over the stone, but it does allow you to be, or at least it feels like I'm being a little bit more precise. And you basically carry on in that manner with through the grits. This is the similar thing. It's a slightly longer tool, so I'll be able to go quite nicely. This is a curved blade, so what you're going to need to do is rock it. I'm sort of partially exaggerating this for you. I also need to concentrate. But yeah, you rock it around, and as long as you're making a burr on the back, and that's turning the burr over, that is what creates a sharp tool. Now, onto the pièce de résistance. This little beastie in here, it's held in, it's not as stable as I would like actually, but it is still working quite well. And the thing is, I can now use this without being too fiddly. Now the other thing is, as you've seen, when I'm doing the back, I tend to put my finger on the back of whatever I'm doing. If you do this often enough with a tiny piece like this, you are going to basically remove quite a lot of skin off the back of your hand. Off your finger, sorry. And that's not a good thing. So find a substitute. It's a bit weird. Oh, I've broken through my wax. I didn't need that long enough. No. And here you can see why this is so awkward. So find something else to push down with. And in this case, it's definitely required to just pull. It's moving around. My wax trick didn't work in this instance. But I have flattened the back almost perfectly already with just a few passes. Yep. Now, let's take it out of there. To sharpen this little blade, just with my fingers, is possible, but very, very awkward. And I don't like doing it. Here we go. My fourth option, which I forgot to mention earlier, is to use our masking tape trick. And this is a fantastic way of holding a myriad objects down. Basically, we are sticking, we're using masking tape as an interface in between to protect our stick, in this case, and our tool from a dab of super glue. And, hold on, oh no, here we go, we'll use you. I don't want that hanging over the edge because that's where I'm going to work. Now, I have actually in the past resorted to literally supergluing the blade itself straight down to a bit of wood. In fact, instead of the wax, I have used glue. And superglue doesn't hold to metal too well, and you can break it off, scrape off the excess glue, and you're sorted. If you've got a particularly difficult blade to do, it is a valid option. In the interest of the video, squirt it with some accelerant. And the masking tape is surprisingly strong, but also protects what you're working with. And yeah, check out our other video, the greatest luthier's trick ever, or something like that, masking tape trick. Now, so that supports the back of my blade for when I'm trying to flatten the back off, and gives me much more control than I had before. There is still the problem of rocking as you go, because you've got such a small thing. It really is rather difficult. But as you can see, it's clearing off quite well, and you can do the whole face. And then I should actually bevel that off. If I was making this a little bit more intelligently, I'd cut that off. In fact, you know what? I'm not going to rush just because I'm filming. In the end, I do want this sharp because I need to use it. So here we have a little bevel cut onto the edge. I've got more access to the bevel on my blade, and being gentle and on the edge, I can now have more control. And you can shape a custom tool to fit whatever you're doing. I would, if I did this more often, I would have a little thing in my sharpening drawer, cut away at those angles, and specifically for sharpening this blade. But, well, I don't need to do it very often. There are 3 or 4 methods that can work for you. In the end, I would always suggest actually make a nice solid or get a ring holding vise or something like that, because it's a bit more solid, it's a bit more reliable. However, if you have an individual little tool that you're only going to need to do once, super glue your blade to a bit of wood, or use the masking tape trick, or even the wax trick, although that is obviously a little bit more finicky than it could be. Now, I am constantly learning, I'm constantly changing and upgrading and learning. I was looking for another word there and I just blanked. If you have a better method, if you have an interesting, different way in which you sharpen tiny blades, please let us know in the comments below. And if you haven't, but wanted to see some interesting, wonderful things from your fellow YouTubers, then check in the comments below, because that is one of the main reasons why I make these videos, is because people will inevitably call me out and say, "Hey Ben, you're a fool," or "Hey Ben, check out this way. This is maybe even better than what you're doing," or an addendum too. And I've learned, just making this series, we're 8 videos in, I have learned so much more about sharpening from your input that, well, it's awesome and excellent, and thank you very much. If you've liked this video, click like, please, and subscribe. Check out the rest of the playlist if you haven't yet, and see what else we do. Guitar building tutorials and the podcast, etc., etc. We put out quite a lot of content each week now. So, well, thank you very much for watching, and have an excellent day. Go away and sharpen something that's fiddly and frustrating, because, well, it can be fun. Fiddly, frustrating, and fun. My goodness. Have a good day. Goodbye.